Hi, we're live tonight. Unfortunately, just as a quick, Sean couldn't make it today, but we have a very, very special guest today, Rob from
Hey,
Melbourne. Hey, how are you doing?
good mate. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Nah, it's awesome,
I
awesome. Look,
missed
thanks for
I missed
coming.
the I missed the husky man you're normally with his
Oh, look, he's the good-looking one.
yeah, yeah,
We'll face.
yeah.
We shouldn't say. Wait, we are live and everybody is seeing this, so they have just stepped in it. Hey, Sean, the good-looking one.
Yeah, it's funny. I only just as I said it realized husky has two meanings. I actually meant he has a very husky. I don't know
Oh yeah,
if you're a wrestling fan, but like he has a Shawn Michaels sort of a voice. Like he could cut a mean promo, brother.
of course I know who Shawn Michaels is. He's the HBK, Sweet Chin Music. Come on.
I wasn't sure. Awesome. Well, let's talk wrestling for the first 20 minutes. I'm ready. Let's
Oh,
do it.
that's fine. That's fine. So, there's one feud which I really liked, and because it was the flip, and I'm sorry, all people who aren't wrestling fans, Triple H and Shawn Michaels have that long history. They hated each other. They loved each other. They
Yeah.
formed one group. What was that group called?
The DX.
DX. That's
Degeneration
it.
X. Yeah.
Yep. So they've been fun. I really thought that's a like I have to say that's one of the more fun rivalries, Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Yeah, well, I'm a rock Stone Cold guy myself.
Yep.
I should say like Bret Hart's the technician. I love him, but no, I'm popcorn all the way. I love when the Transformers fight each other. I like
Yep.
Stone Cold, The Rock. Just let me sit back and watch the two Titans have at it.
Oh, cool. But that's I don't know if you watch up to a little bit further. There's Randy Orton,
Yeah,
RKO. Ah, he was one of my absolute favorites. The only
stole Diamond Dallas Page's gimmick, but that's all right.
Oh
The Diamond
no
Cutter.
no no no. Oh look, let's say hi to the chat first, and then we'll come back
Yeah.
because I just so disagree with that statement.
Okay.
So look, we have Sazigal. Hey,
Hey,
welcome
how's it
aboard.
going?
I hope you did get the chance to catch up with Sean over Oz Comic Con Melbourne. And said hi to him. Unfortunately, Sean's not here today, but I'm hoping Sazigal, you had a great time at the convention. If you want to chuck some comments on how it went, I'm happy to have a chat to you about it. And Moira, look, hey, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope everything is fine up where you are. I don't know if you know about Moira's in top of the world. I think Scotland. So
Right.
yeah.
I,
So
I was
we have people visiting from all over the world. So unfortunately, Moira Sean couldn't make it today. So but he's here in spirit. Let's bring this guy.
Hey, Sizzle. What's up?
So he's here. And hey, Dan, I don't know if you know who this is.
I know who that is. I've got a fair idea who that is. Yeah.
Okay. Look, I know we had a slight detour into wrestling, but
No,
what we really want to talk to you about is the movie of the night. We actually have touched base a little bit about Spider-Man No Way Home in the previous episode, but not to a deep dive in it because we were just talking about all the different Spider-Man rumors which were coming out of No Way Home and
Mm,
leading into the Spider-Verse. For example, one of the rumors was Andrew Garfield was finally going to complete his trilogy
yeah.
because I think in No Way Home he hinted at what happened, but they actually never showed what happened. He said, "I went on this dark path." Before we do get into it, and I'll probably pass the stage to you. If you haven't seen No Way Home, we are going to be very spoilery. It's been long enough, I would think.
Yeah.
So if you haven't, you can freeze this episode and come back down the track. We won't hold that against you, but please note we will be actually discussing story details. Let me pop this one up. Very exciting. And I'll pass it to you. Why did you pick the movie, and what made you?
Uh,
Why do you enjoy about it?
well, one of the reasons I picked the movie is because I have horrible recall when it comes to, when you're sitting around with buddies and you're like, oh, how cool was this part? And I'm always like, what was that? So I went for the movie that not only have I seen twice, but I saw it most recently. I rewatched it on VOD or whatever you call it.
Yep.
What do the kids call it these days?
Streaming on demand.
Yeah, because my wife hadn't seen it because we have kids, so these days I often will have to go to a movie by myself and blah blah. But it's Spider-Man. Now I have like many comic book fans, obviously have a long history with Spider-Man. Along with the X-Men, were sort of responsible, I think, for the big push for superhero movies. My favorite little thing, so 2002, the first Tobey Maguire movie came out, and I saw it with my brother. My brother's 8 years younger than me, so I probably would have had to have driven him to the movies because he was in his late teens or mid-teens or whatever. And I remember the end of the movie, it said Spider-Man will return in 2004, and we were like, 2000, that's 2 years, that's never come 2 years away. That's never, like, when you like the concept of time where you're just like, so much has to happen in life before I'm going to see another Spider-Man movie. It just seems like it's never coming. Why even tease us with that? And then you go and see No Way Home and you're like, now this is the 8th Spider-Man movie. Like, life is just flying by, one Spider-Man movie at a time. And a perfect celebration of all that time invested in this character with this movie having, and I stay away from spoilers. I try my best to I'll mute certain words on Twitter so that I can still go on Twitter, and I'll mute the word Spider-Man, I'll mute the Eternals or whatever I haven't seen yet. And there was a fair idea. I had a fair idea that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were coming, but I didn't know for certain. And I lent into that. So when Andrew Garfield stepped through the portal, just to bring it back for wrestling, I popped. It was an amazing moment, and then you're just sort of like, well, you bring one back. Surely you can't bring one without the other. Surely the first phone call was to Tobey Maguire. And say what you will about that third movie of his trilogy, that is still an epic trilogy of movies. Spider-Man 2 is... Now, I haven't watched it in a long time, and I'm scared to, but I imagine it would still rank in my top 10. just to take a quick tangent. So I studied screenwriting for a few years, and we had to, the main homework was go and watch movies and pull them apart and see what works, what doesn't, and then apply that to your screenplay and whatever. So I tried for ages to deny what I loved in movies. My top 10 movie list was Clerks 2, Spider-Man 1, X-Men 2, Spider-Man 2. Like, it was all nerdy superhero stuff, popcorn movies, Jurassic Park. But studying screenwriting, I tried to... No, I love Stranger Than Fiction. I love Little Miss Sunshine. I like these arty movies. But I was denying the true me, which was I am a sucker for these movies. When my judgmental brain just switches off, I remember why I liked comics since I was a kid, and I'm all in. It takes a lot for these movies to turn me off. So, and this is like the ultimate reward for having been there since day one.
Oh, definitely. So I suppose the question that who's your favorite, Maguire, Toby, or Garfield, Andrew, or Tom Holland?
That's so... I don't know how negative do you like to go in this show? On Drink and Draw, we like to try and keep things positive.
We try to keep things a little bit positive, but look, as long as it's constructive, I feel free to. Like, I was ripping into Obi-Wan, the TV series, last week as well.
Yeah.
So, have you seen that one? I'm assuming.
Yeah. Love Obi-Wan. Yeah, but I can see. Yeah, it's the same thing, but I'm a sucker for it. So
So look, don't get me wrong. I actually did enjoy the series, but like you said, sometimes you put your creative hat on. And if Sean's watching this, he's not gonna be happy with me. So I'm sorry, Sean, in advance. The first episode of Obi-Wan was bad. It technically bad, mainly because it was probably one of the worst calls to you know the hero trope, the call to action. You've got
Yep,
the
yep.
reluctant hero, and you need to bring him back into action. You know,
Mhm.
it's a standard trope.
Yep.
That was probably the worst call to action I have seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And the reasons why that was a really bad call to action is there was no tension in the call to action. Like when you do a call to action, and let's use Endgame as example. There was a call to action for Tony Stark, come
Mhm.
back, join the Avengers, join the time heist, save the world. But he had something to lose. If I do all this, there's a chance I'm going to screw this up. I'm going to lose my daughter. I'm going to lose Pepper. We're mucking around with time. I could screw
Yep.
this up very, very easily.
Mm.
So there is a consequence for the call to action. The other point about the call to action, and John Wick, for example, he's found some measure of happiness, like not huge happiness, but he's found peace after leaving, the Assassin's Guild. He's got his dog. He actually got to be with his wife for some time, so he found that happiness.
Mm.
Um, let's say when his wife died, wasn't happy, but he found his peace.
Right.
And the call to action for John Wick, there was a consequence. Are you back in? I heard you're back in. Like that's why that comment kept popping up, because he's going, and then finally when he said, you know what? I think I'm back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so with Obi-Wan, I found that that his call to action, his reluctance to come back in, and that call to action dragging on for the whole episode. Like number one, he didn't seem that depressed. He was still, and the whole point of I need to watch over Luke. They actually made a real good point to show there was there was no threat to Luke of why
Yeah.
he had to stay. In fact, when he was watching, Luke was playing games, pretending to be a pilot. There was no threat, and it's not like his life was so fantastic. He was just living a normal drudgery life.
Yeah.
So, and for it to drag on for the whole episode, you're just going, God, you could skip the whole episode, say, oh yeah, drop the one hint to say Leia popped up, and the other point would be is so the call to action with Leia being the catalyst event. You know how for a call to action happen, you need a catalyst.
Mhm.
There was no real reason for Obi-Wan to say no to the quest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the one thing that really bugged me in the end was he was, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And then when Senator Organa turns up, it's like, I'm not asking you in person. Oh, wow, that's made the difference. You've actually come to see me in person.
Oh, that's the
Oh,
difference
man.
between a text message and a phone call. It's like,
Oh, man.
yeah, it can't be that important. And then,
So as much as I enjoyed the series going forward, I was thinking, man, like you said, screenwriter's hat on, creative hat on.
yeah, yeah,
God, that was not a good call to action.
yeah.
And what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like perhaps they put a bit of they assume you're going in with prior knowledge, maybe, but I didn't trip over that. I did want it to get moving, and I did think it was a little forced, pun not intended, that he, it'd been 10 years, and so he'd forgotten. I don't know. Was it forgotten that he couldn't use the Force anymore? But I didn't trip over the. I mean, there's a few things. It's like the idea that they didn't want to do him carrying Luke around because it was a bit like the Mandalorian carting Grogu around, and then he ends up carting Princess Leia around instead.
Yep.
But I don't know. I go in hoping for fun, and I try my hardest to have fun. Sometimes I trip over something, but like the flea and the rest of the chili peppers chasing Leia through the trees, and it was like I chase my kids, where you purposely don't catch them so that they have fun. And a few moments like that where I'm like, oh, that's a bit weird, and then like. So they know now there's a connection between Leia and Kenobi. So do they then abuse that connection for the next 20 years or so till they blow up Alderaan and all that stuff?
That makes sense, because then actually that was some really good tie-in because it actually went back. If you remember back in New Hope,
Yeah,
Obi-Wan, you're our only hope. If you remember,
yeah,
so there
yeah.
is a really look. You can see that tie-in's going to happen, and I think it was
Mm.
really clever of them to do that. Look, to be really fair, I'm actually enjoying the series. My only gripe was episode 1 because you
Yeah,
spend the whole episode going, "God damn it, just
yeah,
chase, just start the adventure already."
yeah,
I would have liked it to be 15 minutes. Match episode 1, 15 minutes. Oh my God, Obi-Wan, we need your help. I'm on the next star. I'm there, and then
yeah.
it just jumps that.
I mean,
I
that's the
feel
classic movie thing, right? That's the
yeah,
15-minute mark. That's when,
yeah,
never turn a movie off until the 15-minute mark,
yeah,
because that's when things, the adventure,
exactly.
the call to action, etc., begins. But yeah, I guess you're right that they sort of stretch that 15 minutes to 40 minutes or wherever it was. And
Oh, but you were saying something. Sorry, sidetracked a bit, and we
no,
do tend
please.
to do. But
Yeah.
you were mentioning something about Spider-Man, and look, and the thing is, I don't mind it being a bit negative. It's absolutely fine. But
Mm.
yeah, what didn't you like about Spider-Man No Way Home?
Well, no, well, so I guess, yeah, I loved Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire 1 and 2. I even enjoyed number 3. The classic thing of trying to up the ante, so let's throw 15 villains in there.
Mm,
It was, a bit rough to get Venom, have Venom be so, last minute, it felt like. But it was still cool. But my thing was I didn't love the Andrew Garfield movies that much. I thought his Spider-Man, I think it was the best swinging and wall crawling and stuff, even to this, even best wall crawling and swinging ever was in those Andrew Maguire movies. When it goes point of view and he's
mm,
swinging and climbing, and it's like you're wearing VR goggles. It's insane. Um, I just think his witty, in your face, Peter, like Spider-Man-y quips
mm,
were a bit assholey. Like they weren't, like, I think he was being a bit of a jerk. Like even to police and everything, his quips were jerky. They weren't witty and funny.
mm,
And there's just a few, some of those, New York, it's all New York, America. Like when all the, I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 of the Amazing Spider-Man, but the cranes that all come and
mm,
he swings on the cranes. And
yeah,
um, I just, and here's the thing that I hate too. It's like,
mm,
so this the original Spider-Man movies are guilty of this, but a lot of superhero movies are guilty of this. It's you spend the whole first movie getting the powers, and then so for the last 15 minutes you've got fully powered, here he is, full costume,
mm,
swinging, doing whatever he's doing. So in theory you're like, awesome, well, we've done all the setup. Now number 2, we get all swinging, all powers, all awesome all the time. But then they did, even in the original Sam Raimi ones, they take the power away, which I think is such a cop out. It's like, yeah, but what is the hero without his powers? And it's like,
mm,
but that's not why we're watching it. We come to watch the powers. And just, yeah, in the Andrew Garfield one is,
mm.
here comes the big penultimate battle, and he gets his web shooters crushed. And it's just like, yeah, but now we're just watching a guy. Like, we come to watch Spider-Man. I don't know. Don't take away the things that make him Spider-Man. And people would argue, but Peter Parker is the hero. That's who we're. And I get it, but I want to see swinging. I want to see tying up villains like flies and all that stuff.
I think that's what thing the Tom Holland MCU version did really, really well, and it didn't show Uncle Ben's death. I think that was probably one of, and they hinted at it, and they never depowered Tom Holland.
Mm,
It
mm,
was always with him. It was, hey, these are Spider-Man adventures. These are, and his biggest problems, at least from a growth emotional point of view, had nothing to do with Spider-Man. It
yeah,
had to do with, oh gosh, I just found out my in the first Spider-Man Tom Holland one, my first girlfriend's dad is a potential psychotic killer, the Vulture,
yeah,
and my favorite scene from that one is still the Michael Keaton scene when they're all in the car and they were talking. And if you ever go back to see good dialogue and great acting, that scene it's probably the most incredible scene in that movie, because
Mm.
when they basically figure each other out, it's like, oh, and they couldn't let that, because Vulture, Michael Keaton's daughter, was still in the car. They didn't
Yeah.
want to let slip that they knew who each other were. And
The
it's
acting that Michael Keaton does with just his eyes in the rear vision mirror, and like what he's just by his eyes, what's up, and Peter Parker knows what's up. It's awesome.
And then the cool thing was Michael Keaton was actually giving Peter his out. Go to the party. I'm doing this. You stay out of this. We're cool. And then it's like, no, I don't think I will. And I don't know, it was the way it was written, the dialogue, I thought was absolutely fantastic, because everything was in between the lines. You had to watch it and watch the actors do it. Because if you actually listen to the dialogue, I mean, imagine if you just read the script, you'd be going, nothing's happening here, it's just talking. But it was the delivery of that script. Oh man, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
This is thinking out loud now, but did it, because like the normal Spider-Man thing is that being Spider-Man disrupts the life of Peter Parker.
Correct.
It feels like maybe in the Tom Holland movies is that Peter Parker is upsetting the life of Spider-Man almost more so. Like it's almost like it's flipped.
Yeah, a little bit. There's elements of both ways, and I think that's where it's really interesting, because in the second one, Far From Home, if you remember, being Spider-Man kept interrupting his relationship with Zendaya or Mary Jane. Kept interrupting that. But yet, it's his relationship with as Peter that was interrupting his, I want to be with Nick Fury. I want to be the next Mysterio. I want to be super cool, but I can't be because, you know what? I still want a school life. And I thought it was a really nice dichotomy. It's a really nice compare and contrast, that it's, rather than having it just one way, it was actually flipped both ways, that Peter wants to be that super cool secret agent, but he can't be, but Spider-Man can. And
it was fun watching I can never remember their names. Home from something new, from just
it's all home.
Spider-Man 1, 2, 3. Like too hard. But watching the Mysterio one with my wife, who she can pick. My office is lined with action figures. She can pick out people's names, but she doesn't know that Mysterio is a villain and all that sort of stuff. So obviously, you and I are going to see Jake Gyllenhaal as the hero Mysterio. We know the twist before it happens, but then you get to live vicariously through your wife or your partner who doesn't know any better, and realize she was like, what, when Mysterio's the villain. She thought we were looking at the new Tony Stark or whatever, and
If you ever get bored, go back to watch Far From Home. And what they've actually did, which was really, really cool, Jake Gyllenhaal was the background character for quite a lot of scenes. And it's actually all set up, if you watch really carefully, that he was always the bad guy. Because there's a lot of crowd scenes where he was scoping out Peter, and you actually will see Jake Gyllenhaal in the background. And you know how they had the big reveal in the bar where Jake Gyllenhaal's, I've got the glasses, hey, to you, thank you so much, you rock. To you, thank you so much, you rock. All those characters actually appeared in all the background scenes. Right. So it was a huge setup. So if you ever get bored, go back, rewatch it, pause on a couple of key frames, and you will see all those characters which basically helped Jake Gyllenhaal set up the whole plan. They're all there. I thought, oh man, for filmmaking wise, I was like, oh gosh, attention to detail.
Yeah. And of course, the post credits, J. Jonah Jameson. That was a little tease for like a reward for having been here since 2002 watching these things. And of course, I can never remember which one's which. The latest one, number 3, the Doctor Strange one. Suddenly, that makes my job harder as a parent of 6-year-olds. Now, do I have to? Because I'm looking forward to, maybe 8 years old, I can maybe start them on the MCU, on the Iron Man 1. But now I'm like, I need to go back to X-Men so that Multiverse of Madness makes sense to them. I need to go back to Tobey Maguire Spider-Man so that Far From Whatever is Far From Home. Not Far From Home. I should have written them down.
No Way Home. Look, but
No Way
I will give you parenting advice though, and this is
Please.
very, very important. So, when they are of age,
Yes,
let them decide themselves, DC or Marvel. If don't force don't force it on them.
Yeah.
Let them decide, because I promise you, if you force your thoughts onto them, they'll just end up resenting you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just take it slowly.
Well, see, I'm one of those rare breeds that I never picked it. I picked. Obviously, we'd love to read every comic there is, but you can't. We don't have the money all the time. But I picked a universe that I was going to learn as much about as I could, and that was the Marvel universe. But I wouldn't say I'm a Marvel and I'm anti DC. I'm pro comics, and I just, my wallet only stretches so far, so I chose one universe to go all in on, and then I'm all in on Gotham and little bits of Metropolis and that sort of stuff.
My take really is that I'm in for the good stories. Like, there are some really, and when I was collecting comics from a while back, I used to collect the ones where there was usually an acclaimed writer, or the run was said to be a very, very good run, whether artistically or story-wise. I was usually all in for that. For example, I really got to Spider-Man during J. Michael Straczynski of Babylon 5, when he did his run of Spider-Man. I was all in for that. When he left the run, I left the comic. So I tend to come in where, oh my God, this is a really good storyline. You have to read this. Boom, you're in. And it doesn't matter if it's Marvel or DC. I used to absolutely hate all the tie-in crossovers, because sometimes you're invested in a really awesome run, and then there's this one issue which you just go, that's got nothing to do with what I want to read. But it was tied in because there was a cosmic event, or something happens to Earth, the sun, or whatever. And you just go, no, I'm not interested. I just want that run. I'm not interested in the. But Marvel and DC, both of them are guilty of it. Is the big events, because they tend to sell more issues with the big events. And I used to hate the reboots, because sometimes you're invested in a particular character, and then and DC is really, really notorious for this, especially when they reboot the character. It was like, oh gosh, everything I loved about this one character over. You got to remember, some of the runs are like 30 issues, which is like 5 years.
Yeah.
You got to see a character a certain way, and then suddenly it's just basically ripped out from you, and just going, no, everything that's familiar about him. And that's probably the one thing in terms of, say, Spider-Man the comics, what I really hated was that they always let him grow up to a certain point, and then they reboot him back. And they just actually, to be really fair, they just rebooted him again. This is probably 2 or 3 months back. They just rebooted him again. And of course, Mary Jane hates him. He doesn't have a life. And you're just going, for me, I don't want those stories anymore. Let the guy grow up.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the MCU is actually doing really much the right thing, because they can't keep rebooting characters, because it's not a drawing anymore. These are actually real actors. Eventually, eventually Chris Hemsworth is going to be 60 years old, and you're going to go, that's not Thor anymore. And so what they're doing, which I really like, is that, hey, look, these actors cannot be around all the time. We need to build the next generation of things. If you look at it, I'm assuming you watched the Hawkeye series. Hawkeye looks really old. And that's the actor. That's the actor. And it has to be that tall. And I like the new Hawkeye. I think I can't remember her name, the actress name.
Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld, that's it. I love her. I think she's
awesome.
And when she did the scene with Florence Pugh, the new Black Widow, And the thing is, like, Scarlett Johansson isn't going to be there all the time anymore, and
Yeah.
they are beginning
Not at
to
all
break
anymore. She got
in
thrown off a
flashbacks, maybe.
soul for a soul.
Yeah, but it's really nice that they're actually going. You know what? These actors aren't going to be, and we actually have a physical limitation. These actors
Yeah.
aren't going to be around forever. So, oh gosh, yeah, let's bring Kate Bishop in because I don't know. I like that. I really like that.
Sorry. No, sorry, keep going. I interrupted.
I'm done. Yeah, your turn. I
No.
I really like that. I like that next generation thing.
Yeah. No, I was just like Hawkeye. I think that was my favorite of the which I know is not the popular opinion. When I see people ranking the Disney Plus shows, and my list is almost the reverse of what everyone else's is, but I thought the Hawkeye one was the best one. I loved the grizzled sort of Hawkeye, and I'm a sucker for those. Like my favorite Batman story is Batman, and I think it's just Batman calls Batman and Robin, but it's Dick Grayson as Batman. This is when Bruce Wayne had died for a little while, and Damian Wayne.
He was healing because
yeah.
When the back was broken and he had to go find Lady Shiva to heal him. Was that the story?
No, I think so. It's the Grant Morrison run. I mean,
the Grant Morrison. I thought you were talking about Nightfall. You know, the original where.
Oh no. So this is probably 10 years after that.
Yeah.
And that's my thing too with deaths in comics. In my mind, like, when you say like, so Captain America died, right, and Bucky took over, and people go, then, well, if you read Captain America Reborn, he wasn't dead. He was actually in a something. And I go, no. For the sake of the story, Captain America was dead. Full stop. And then there was a story later that retconned that. But I enjoy the story where Captain America was dead and Bucky took the mantle, and Sam helped him through it, and Moira helped him through it, and all that sort of stuff. I'm a sucker for the picking up the mantle. I love Laura Kinney Wolverine. Anytime the Padawan becomes the master, good times.
No, I think especially in comics, and which I hate, is they tend to retcon all that and bring that, bring the status back in, and I really hate that because, for example, I would love Peter Parker stories, like the Straczynski run for me, and this a while back was really one of my favorite Spider-Man runs. Mainly because Peter had grown up. He became a high school teacher. He actually had kids. He reconciled with Mary Jane. Look, did he have problems? Of course, they still got to fight and stuff like that. But it was, hey, I'm figuring it out. I'm a 35-year-old adult. I've got my life together. And I thought that was really nice. I mean, besides a cosmic the evil entity trying to eat his soul, but, That's a Tuesday problem. That's not a Monday problem. But it was really nice to actually have that growth in the character. And instead of being, oh man, he's now a 20-something-year-old dating multiple women, doesn't know what he wants in his life, and Spider-Man is his only outlet. You know what? To be really fair, I'm sick of those stories. I really want the next progression of Peter Parker stories. And that's where I find was one plot line where there was Mayday Parker, Peter's daughter, and she was immensely popular. And they canned her. There was a whole offshoot imprint from Marvel, and they basically go, we're canceling the whole imprint, but we're just keeping one of the characters alive, which is Spider-Girl. Everybody else in that universe, nah, you're all gone.
Yeah.
And I always think it would be really nice to see Peter in a proper mentor role where his daughter is coming of age, or his son, or whoever they decide to do it, and get that done really nicely. I think it opens up different storylines. And I think, and the whole point is, and this is where the multiverse idea is good, you can still always have the perpetual Peter high school stories. If you think about it, just, different universe, you can have that running. But have the character grow up, and it's not a bad thing. And I think that's where the MCU is forced to do that, because the actors are actually growing up. So there will be a time where Tom Holland cannot fake he's a high school kid anymore, and he's already 50-50 on that. But there
Yeah.
will be a point where you go, nah, I can't believe that.
I don't know, man. Have you ever watched Beverly Hills 90210 when
Yes.
Andrea was like 54 playing a 17-year-old?
Oh, look, Perry, he had wrinkles like
Yeah.
everything. And it's like,
Yeah.
nah, you're not 16.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, look, we've got a few more minutes. Let's just wrap up No Way Home.
Yeah, sure.
Your final thoughts on it?
Yeah, post movie, you can sort of go, I was a bit irresponsible of Doctor Strange to just start casting a spell without having everything, all those sorts of things. But my sort of main thing is, did I enjoy it in the moment? Yes, I bloody loved it. Then that's a good movie. Like later on, when I start thinking, well, that was weird. How did they do this? I sort of go, well, did it matter? Because in the moment, it didn't take you out of it. In the moment, you were hanging on every word. In the moment, it was shock and awe. It was awesome. So I don't know. Analyze it when you get home. But did you have a good time while you were watching it? Then that's all that matters. I don't know.
Oh, I'll just pop this one comment on because
Please.
I do want to talk this one comment before we jump on to talk about your work.
Sure.
Yes, I do. Absolutely. For if you're in the US or Canada on Labor Day, there's an extended version of No Way Home coming out. I will. Oh gosh, what was the name of the new version? Labor Day, No Way Home.
I think it's called Still No Way Home.
Still hasn't figured it out yet. No, I'll find the real name. Peter, if you actually do know the name of the extended cut, I think it's 3 letters again. I mean 3 words again. Please pop it up. But yes, there is got one coming out. And what I was saying about that, there it is. By the way, our chat is awesome. When I make mistakes, I just throw the question out and people reply to me with the answer. I absolutely love it. The more fun stuff version.
Yes, right.
So thank you, Peter. You rock. But yeah, it's got what I was actually saying is because it's actually really interesting because with DVD sales being down and all deleted scenes, extended versions usually hitting DVDs, and people are now buying less DVDs and actually subscribing to streaming services more, that they've actually made the decision. Look, our DVD sales aren't going to be too great. We want to make more money. We're going to release a new version. So will I go back to the cinemas to watch the extended cut? 50-50. But I know a lot of people will. So would you do it, Rob? One more time?
Yeah, I guess I'd kind of want to know an idea. Like just on the top of my head, I imagine some of those scenes where it was the 3 Peters, working in the lab. I imagine that was the sort of thing where they just went nuts and had a lot of fun, and there's like 14 different versions of that scene. So I imagine things like that maybe go for 10 minutes. And that were some of the, you couldn't wipe the smile off my face sort of scenes. So I'm all for it if there's more of that and more of the Ned, Zendaya, Peter interactions. I don't think I could hack any more of May dying even slower because that scene, even the second time around, I was like, oh, May. And that's another thing too. I mean, we've heard it a million times, but with great power must also come great responsibility. I'm a sucker for it in that they waited 3 movies for it. It's like the Avengers Assemble thing. You waited
10 years.
10 movies. Yeah. No, please go.
Oh no, the main thing would be is by the way, have you seen Peacemaker? The DC
No,
one?
I haven't. No. Speaking of Marvel DC, I don't know. DC movies and whatnot, they don't grab me that much.
The reason I raised that one, it's James Gunn. If you know how James Gunn he writes awesome dialogue and whatever. So if you watch Peacemaker, the TV series, what happens is you have usually, the show, it runs through for about the 40, 50 minute, again, the episode dependent. But then afterwards, they'll show the scene where it's basically been cut. And for example, there's one scene where basically Peacemaker is insulting somebody, and in the actual show itself, it goes on for about 20 seconds. He just calls someone an idiot, whatever. But when they show the post-credit one, basically it goes on for about 2 minutes of him
Yeah.
just think of every insult you can think of and just throwing it out. And think about that Deadpool scene when they're insulting each other,
Yeah.
and it just having. And I think that you would cut it for the film, but I can imagine that film scene where they're just like the three Peters are just not insulting each other, but playing off each other, where it's inconsequential. It's just personality. I think that'll be a lot of fun as well. I
Yeah.
would be for that, 100%.
Yeah. I probably won't go to Morbius though, the rescreening of Morbius.
I can't believe they rescreened that. I cannot.
Yeah.
Again, being slightly not fun about that one. I think some exec totally misread the memes about Morbius.
Well,
They
that's
would,
when Jared Leto started doing the memes, and that they someone had commented online about how it's like when your dad suddenly is in on the joke, and then the
yeah.
joke's not funny anymore because the parents are doing it as well.
Oh, and they totally missed it. It wasn't picked on because it was popular or loved. It was picked on because it was bad, and I didn't realize that. And I'm going, there's that little bit of this, like hate to use this terminology. I think it was the boomer disconnect.
Okay.
That's what they're
Well,
saying. That
it's sort of because I remember years ago there was a big lesson learned with a similar thing with Snakes on a Plane, how it was this B grade movie, and everyone knew what it was, but then the internet was just like, this is going to be the greatest movie ever, ironically. And somebody get these snakes off this mother effing plane, etc. So they went back and put that scene in, and suddenly it got a worldwide release instead of a limited release, and then it failed miserably because no one wanted to actually see it. They just wanted to hang crap on it. It's sort of like, so we've been down this road before with the whole Morbin time. There were snakes on a plane once. That was an internet thing, but no one wanted to see the actual movie. They just wanted to troll it.
I know. Okay, look, and you've been such a great guest, but I want to talk about your stuff. And so,
Sure.
look, I've got a couple of your images up here. Let me just scroll through it.
Yeah, there's nothing
Look,
like picking on some storytellers and then saying, "Now look at me and how well I do that."
look, they get paid a lot. They are a lot better than us. They're the big boys.
Yeah.
This is how we feel like, nah, don't feel guilty. But look, tell us about the stuff you do, man. You've given me some screenshots, which I'm happy to show up. So
Yeah, well, so what you've
let's
got
talk about it.
here is probably my latest few books that are out. That one in particular is called Sluggish, and that's my attempt at an sort of zany indie sort of a book, where I wasn't so hard on myself about it being the perfect. And not to say my other books are the perfect visuals and whatnot, but I would spend hours and hours sweating over a page. This one was just how I used to draw books when I was a kid, which was just I'd sit down and start drawing, and I didn't worry about what people would think. It's sort of like when I played music, it took me a long time to realize, you're trying to write songs with these fancy chords to impress other guitarists. And so with this, I was not trying to impress artists, because I feel like that's kind of a fool's errand, because the audience we're all chasing is outside of just our creative circle of creative buddies and whatnot. So this is just more me trying to tell a story that kind of pulls from my real life, with the little tagline is depression, anxiety, and slugs. That guy there is Herb, and he's just trying to live. Basically, he trying to get by. Life is fairly mundane and not much going on, and he wonders what his story is. If they were to make a movie about him, what would that story be? Because all he sees is a slug sitting on a couch. So just as he sets out to go look for his story, a story inadvertently finds him. And we thanks, Peter. Yeah, so I just wanted to. It's one of those things. Write what you know, and I spent my 30s in a bit of a dark place, and this is my poking fun at myself and my weird brain during that time. I put a disclaimer in the front cover about mental illness being a real thing, and not to be taken lightly, and whatever. And this book is not me making fun of mental illness so much as making fun of myself and my weird brain, and some of the little nuances and whatever that someone with depression and anxiety struggles with, I guess. And yeah.
Look, and I will go on to the next one. So it looks great. Let's see the next one. I think is Vamoose or Vermoose. How would you?
Yeah, that's Vamoose. So
Let me
this
bring
was
that one up.
Yeah, this was so Devil's Toilet 1 had just come out. That was sort of my
Let's
book
bring
that
this one.
yeah, that one. Well, that's Devil's Toilet 3. So Devil's Toilet 1 came out, and
Here we go. Here we go.
I was very lucky to meet a bunch of creators like yourself and a bunch of others. And basically, I wanted to, foolishly, you guys let me put my foot in the door. So I wanted to get my whole body in the door. And so I wanted to put out another book. And at the same time, my mentor in drawing, a gentleman by the name of Nick May, we had just sort of reconnected, and he was still drawing. And so I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, do you want to team up and do a book together? It's called Vamoose, and you have half the book, I have half the book. We have a tagline for each issue. First one being Too Many Chooks, and we both go away and we tell a story that involves too many chooks." And then I was fortunate enough to team up with COMICS and Shane Siddle and all those. And so I met Peter Wilson, and I reached out to him and asked if he wanted to be in it. And long story short, by the time I got to Vamoose 3, so it's an anthology that's tells stories all based around one concept. And number 3 is robots and rowboats. And we went from, I think, 6 creators in the first issue, and issue 3 has about 15 or so.
Wow.
So yeah, that ended up being like a 48-page comic. I remember when we did the first one, I had this arbitrary rule in my head that comics are 22 pages. So
Oh
I
no,
tried
no,
to,
that's long gone.
yeah, I know. So I tried to limit things, or you can do 3 pages and I'll do 7 pages, and this person. And then by the time we got to issue 3, it was just like, there are no rules. The only rules are robots and rowboats, go crazy. And so people were handing in, there's some awesome 1-page stories. There's some awesome 8-page stories. They're all fun leaning stuff, with the occasional feels throughout. But Vamoose is like a celebration of all the awesome creators and stuff I've met over this comic book journey, and given us a place to all sort of jam together. It's kind of like a improv comedy in comics, or like an open mic music night in comics sort of thing. I'm really proud of it.
Oh, that's awesome. I noticed. Let's go to the next one. So Devil's Toilet is that your magnum opus? Is that the one? If you had to be remembered for one of your works, would Devil's Toilet be the one?
Yeah, I would say that's my Fantastic Four if I was Stan Lee. So that's my that's where all my characters are going to appear and start their journeys, because I would love to do 14 different titles. I would love to have my, branch off into Black Panther, branch off into the Avengers, but I'm just one guy. So it's all under the Devil's Toilet umbrella, a toilet that escapes hell and accidentally brings with him the apocalypse, and then sets about putting things back, and along the way meets a whole bunch of different people and characters and whatever from throughout the Spedziverse, as I call it.
So have you? And I've always asked this. Have you figured out how it's going to end?
Yes, I plan to finish the Devil's Toilet with issue 5, only because I want to do so many other things, and life's flying by one Spider-Man movie at a time, and I'm not going to get to do everything. So The Devil's Toilet was a learning by doing sort of comic. You'll, as much as you'll see these characters grow, you'll see me grow as a writer and artist. Pardon me. For the longest time, I say this quite often, but for the longest time, I thought my silly cartoons should be accompanied by silly writing, and that my serious writing, that's reserved for novels and screenplays and whatever. I'm slowly learning through advice from other people that I meet is that, you know, someone can feel for a stick figure if the story's told the right way, sort of thing. So slowly, the comedy is still there, the silliness is still there, but the stakes are getting a little bit more real. Characters are getting a few more layers to them as we go, and I'm starting to apply sort of things I'm learning in other books that I write, more serious stuff. I'm starting to apply in my silly Spedziverse books.
We have a question, so I'm going to pop the question, and I'll let you answer it.
When's your Spider-Man coming out? Well, I almost tried. So The Devil's Toilet 3 is essentially the tale of Frederick Trelawney, the Turtle Detective.
Let me bring that cover up. Give me a sec. I do have.
Oh, yeah, that's that one, right?
That's
that's that one. Yeah, so that's him there. It was going to be Frederick Trelawney #1, but it was my Spider-Man. But it tied so it was so entrenched in my Fantastic Four universe that it just felt hard to, when you're at this level as an indie creator, it's just sort of telling someone, read Devil's Toilet 1 and 2, and then Frederick Trelawney 1, and then come back for, and I was just like, keep it easy, keep it straightforward. The Devil's Toilet is in this book. Let's just call it The Devil's Toilet 3, because it's all connected. It's all one universe. So yeah, if I had an army of illustrators, I would love to have 14 books in the Spedziverse, but alas, it's just me. So it's just, we're going to have The Devil's Toilet for a while. Yeah. Thanks, Pete.
That's a good question. So, what's your next steps? And so you're saying it's going to end at 5, and then what's your progression? Are you jumping on to something totally different, or are you planning to continue more stories in this particular universe? What's your thoughts on doing?
Yeah, so I do a lot of writing for Reverie Publications. So
that's Gary, is it? Gary Della.
Gary Della, yeah. So I do books like Larrikin and Just came out.
Let me just put you as.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then.
Let me get large.
Oh gosh, I knew I was going to stuff this one up.
That's good.
There you go.
Yeah, so Larrikin and Just. This is on reveriepublications.com.au. It's the story of Lawrence and Justine, and it's basically a sci-fi time travel story. They're sort of like antique dealers, sort of heisty sort of story, where they go to steal something in the hopes of pawning it for big dollars, and then to one last job and then we retire. But they go about stealing the eye of the time dragon, and basically they realize, oh, this actually is not just a children's story, it really is a time travel device, and that gets them into all kinds of trouble. And then there's other books like Torn. I've been playing around in the Torn universe by Gary Della and Peter Lawson and George Hall, and so getting to play in there, like with just straightforward superheroes, that's a good old time. And then Rick McClune is another one that another sort of sandpit that I'm allowed to play in, with a sort of the lone gunman who doesn't want any trouble but always manages to find it, that sort of stuff. So but in terms of my books, so Sluggish, my loose plan is Sluggish 2, then Vamoose 4, and then Devil's Toilet 4, and then Sluggish 3 and 4. It's slightly ambitious, but and we'll see how it goes. But I'm very fortunate to be working with a few other people at the moment on some things that are awesome, but they're preventing me from playing in the Spedziverse at the moment. So get a few other projects out of the way, and then I'll be back.
That's awesome.
Play.
Just a thing, I've shared the link down below. It's on, if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube or by Twitch, the link's shared there. Please just give Reverie Publications Australia a quick like, and I'm sure they'll really appreciate it.
It's hard out there for indie publishers, so yeah, it's always good to. And of course, comics.net.au is something worth supporting also, like Comics to Movies and like Halftone Production. So many of us, we're just trying to tell good stories and get them into people's eyeballs. So yeah, likes and subscribes and shares and all that stuff, it really does mean the world to us little guys. So go forth and click.
People do like it.
Yeah, nice.
There you go. The other thing that I did want to share out as well is you have a particular shop. So again, if somebody does want to take a closer look at your work, is this the best place to find you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, psychojanitor.com's got all my stuff. And then shop.psychojanitor.com has all my books that you can buy, or all my Spedziverse books. All my Reverie books are at Reverie. My comics stuff is at comics.shop. And then all my stuff is at psychojanitor.com. So go forth and click. That'd be awesome. Be a feather in SK's cap if I sold a book while on the show. Then I can say, oh, look, put me on more often. I'm slinging books out here.
So just want to show you at the shop. And look, you've got a great range of titles. So I'm just going to have a quick scroll through so that you can see. If you want me to stop at any particular title because you want to have a funny story or something you want to talk about it. And that's the Nick May you've been talking about as well?
Yeah, Nick May. So Nick May is the older brother of my longest best friend. He's really long. He's just a long man. Yeah, and like I've said for the longest time, my art style is a combination of The Simpsons and Nick May, because his drawing board would be sitting in his brother's bedroom for the longest time, and so I'd be over hanging out with Dan, Nick's brother, and I'd get to just flick through all Nick's comics that he would draw, and I stole so much of his style because I'd never, being able to hold original art and see the indents in the page and just see how he used line weights and stuff. I raced home and I said, "Mum, I need new fine liners and I need them in this size, this size, and this size," because Spedsy just got better at drawing. Yeah. So, and that's, anytime you can sit under the learning tree of someone who has been doing it longer than you is a good thing.
So, and we do get the occasional, not occasional, actually, there's quite a lot of creators who do watch this and watch this after the fact. If I was a creator who's looking for some advice, and what would you give as a first-time creator? What would you tell yourself 10 years previously?
Yeah, well, so I did try to break in 10 years previously with a book called Badly Beaten Boy. I knew nothing. I just knew I liked drawing and reading comics and telling stories. So I think it was 2013. I put a book out, and by put it out, I printed it, and then I didn't know what to do with it. I went on Twitter and I said, "Hey, I've got a book," and that's about as far as it went. It wasn't until The Devil's Toilet 1 where I just started talking to people. And I think that would be the secret, is be friendly, be open-minded, and talk, and just say what you like, say what you're doing, and just hear what other people are doing and hear about their journeys. We do a show on comics called Drink and Draw on Friday nights. And my favorite question to ask creators is how they did their first book, because I think all of us we fall into it. We just sort of go, here's a book, and what do I do? And I just like that, hearing about that journey of then how it gets to how you start sort of finding your way. So yeah, my advice would be to listen, and and in terms of taking advice, take the bits you agree with, ditch the bits that you think are silly. No one knows all of it. And if if one of us had the code to success, we'd all have Netflix shows and all that sort of stuff. Just take the bits you agree with, ditch the rest. We're all just fumbling through, but you can learn a thing or two by the mistakes that those that have made before you, sort of thing.
Oh, that's great advice. Look, and I'll add a little bit to what you've just said. The other thing would be, it's like, seriously, just talk to people. Like, you find that not just comics, but almost any industry. If you want to talk IT, if you want to talk things where, or even any creative, even not creative industries. And the reason I say IT, because IT is very fast moving, and it's probably one of the more technical spheres, which is very always expanding. Same with creative, and things are always growing, always changing. That what you find is most people, honest to God, want to see you succeed. Like, you find that, and again, I won't speak for everybody because there's always that 1% that's not going to. But I would say the bulk of people, like, for example, if you got a Netflix deal or something, I would guarantee you, everybody in the chat, myself included, will be going, wow, congratulations. We'll be honestly so happy for you. And I think trying to foster into a culture which gives you that, and you find that most people are part of that, it's fantastic, because people want to see you succeed. I think I think that's really important. And that's why you say that listening is important, because guess what? Look, I don't know if you know, I do a lot of lettering. It takes a long time to get better at something. Look, I look back at probably the first job I ever did. I just go, I can't look at that. That is so cringe. And also listen to that constructive feedback, because when I did the first job, I had an editor come back to me and basically tear me to shreds, absolutely rip me to shreds, going, oh, what the hell are you doing? But it was all fair and all constructive. And for me to go, I get you, I will do better. And the next time it was still ripped to shreds, but one or two, hey, I noticed what you did there. Good work.
Yeah.
And that growth, I think, is very important. And that's why I say, even the feedback you get, which sometimes isn't the most pleasant of feedback, as long as it's constructive, take it on. As like you said, there's things you just ignore. But in most cases, if people want to see you succeed, if people don't want to see you succeed, they don't say anything. That's probably what I've learned. If somebody doesn't want to see you succeed, they'll just go, "What? Yeah, it's okay. Stop."
Which actually reminds me of something else. I had the pleasure of I've met Shaun a few times, but I got to table with him at a thing a couple of months ago, and we got to chat more than we ever had. And your name came up.
Oh no!
But it was
I didn't do it. I
thing,
swear to God, I didn't do it.
which would be an advice thing that I would say is, like, find your people as well. Like just Shaun has found you, and you guys are teammates, and you trust each other, and you've got each other's backs, and that's a really cool thing. And not everyone is the kindest soul out there, so when you find your people, get their back when they've got yours. And when someone's putting a book out, someone you like and admire or whatever, help them. See, if you can do a cover for them, or just anything. If you can help them in a graphic design sense, in an illustration for their whatever, if you can help write wherever they're lacking, and maybe perhaps you've got a skill that can fill that hole, team up with the people that you know and trust. And when you find your people, be true to your crew, as they say.
Oh, definitely. And look at the chat. Like, you got guys like Shane, who is great. Atrocity Press is actually somebody I do some stuff with. Max he's an awesome guy as well. So I will share one more thing before we start wrapping up, because Max actually has a Kickstarter running right now. So I will put it up. Now that you reminded me, actually.
Yeah.
So let me just pop this one, and then I'll give you the last word. So, one sec.
My last word will be trombone, just so you know.
So, if you want to check out Max's work as well, Max actually has an active Kickstarter, Atrocity Press. So please do check it out. It's like, and I always say this, it's a work of passion. It's something that it's important to people. None of us do this because we think we're going to be the next millionaire artist. We do this because we enjoy what we do, and there's a passion involved. So I always say support passion, because it's a lot more interesting than something that's just regurgitated out. You understand that, and that's where I say a lot of stories by indie creators are actually very, very fascinating stories. They might not be as polished, don't get me wrong. There's things that you go, oh, if you did that would be a lot neater, but you never discredit, oh my god, the number of work or time it takes to put that out. And you're doing a full-time job, or you're doing a side hustle or gigs just to make it happen. It's important to you. But anyway, I'll give you the last word. You can talk about your works, you can close it off, but and end the trombone.
I would just say, be kind to yourself. Only compare yourself to yourself, not others, because there's a 4-year-old Korean girl who does everything you do way better. So there's no point comparing yourselves to others. Just try and do a better book than your last one. Try a better, just try and outdo yourself, and be kind to yourself. And success is a forever moving goalpost. I think just remember the first goal you set for yourself, and when you crush that one, you're winning. Don't do what I do and keep just moving it, going, oh yeah, but I didn't. No, you set out to do this and you did that, so you're winning. And on that note, psychogenna.com/trombone. And thanks, SK, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for coming on. And we'll see all you guys next week, same time.
Yeah.
And we'll have another guest on. And Rob, you're always welcome to come on.
Oh, thank you. Anytime. Be awesome.
Okay, thanks.
Man.
Bye all.